Well, it's one of the biggest Friesen Performance IMC Northern SportMod races in the Speedway Motors IMCA weekly racing program. This Memorial Day weekend at Southern Oregon Speedway in White City, it's the R. Charles Snyder Salute, a $7,700 to win payday on Sunday, May 26th, and $707 to start. We talked with Jason Allen about all the great things that are going to be happening this weekend at Southern Oregon, as well as the meaning behind this race, and that being the man, R. Charles Snyder. That's coming up next on the Beyond the Flags podcast. But before we get to the interview, make sure wherever you're listening or watching from, you hit the like button and subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes. Well, joining me on the Beyond the Flags podcast, it is the sponsorship coordinator and announcer at Southern Oregon Speedway, Jason Allen. Jason, great to have you here. Big weekend coming up. R. Charles Snyder, the Salute to R. Charles Snyder, Memorial Day weekend. This is a big race, big payday, big race in the Speedway Motors IMCA weekly racing program for the Friesen Performance IMC Northern SportMods with over $7,000 up for grabs.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one, and it's hard to believe that it's here already. And as you know, Ben, this race has kind of bounced around on the schedule. It's been around Labor Day weekend. Last year it was in July, and finally we just made the decision to put it on Memorial weekend. So this year is going to be pretty awesome. We're going to, of course, remember the servicemen and women that we've lost, serving this great country, but we're also going to recognize those that are still with us, and also honor the legendary R. Charles Snyder that was the longtime announcer at the Southern Oregon Speedway.
Last year was an excellent addition to this excellent race. Final night, Friesen Performance IMC Northern SportMods, 51 cars. Colby Fett from Algona, Iowa, just dominated this deal. But then some of the local talent shined really well. Jordan Broughton was the runner-up on the final night. Nick Trenchard, racing for the TRP Motorsports, got third. Then Ethan Killingsworth, former winner of this race, was fourth, and Fred Ryland finished P5. I mean, I expect really good car count, A, and B, really good racing.
Yeah, it's really been awesome to see this thing continue to grow, and, recently was changed to feature the SportMod modifieds racing as well with a big payday there. But yeah, as I'm just looking down the results from last year, just the top five that you mentioned, just an absolutely stacked field. But as you look through the rest of the field, as far as the feature goes, I mean, there's just one name after another that could go anywhere and compete, so it's exciting. It's fun to see. And I'm really excited to see what this upcoming weekend holds for the Southern Oregon Speedway and to see who we're going to have out there.
No doubt. And just looking at the Friesen Performance IMCA modified side of things, because, this is a big race for them too. Some bragging rights on the line. Jesse Williamson from Coburg was the winner last year. Mark Woggy finishing second. State champion Carter Patterson wound up third. Albert Gill and Craig Castle fourth and fifth. You see that's a great mix of different drivers. Craig Castle, six-time defending champion at Sunset Speedway Park up in Banks. Albert Gill, multi-time champion, between Siskiyou, Wairika Speedway now, not Siskiyou Golden Speedway, and Carter Patterson. And then you've got Woggy, who is Mr. Southern Oregon Speedway when it comes to this division.
Yeah, definitely. And Mark, what's going to happen with Mark this season? There's been a lot of chatter behind the scenes as to what he's going to do or not do. He was not out there last weekend. There's been some talk about him running a sport modified. I honestly don't know what's going to go on there. And as I'm looking down that list of top five drivers, Jesse Williamson, and you can help me out here on this, Ben, but is Jesse running the sport mod this year?
Yes. Yep. He's already raced a handful of times. He's raced two sport mod races, or for the opener at Douglas County Dirt Track, he was in his brother Kevin's car, and then racing for his uncle Ron the next Saturday at Cottage Grove Speedway. So that's going to be a threat.
Yeah, and when I look at the modified race that's $3,007 to win, some of these guys that were in the top five last year won't be there just due to certain circumstances. Albert Gill's our new race director, and he had a situation with his car where it got torn up, so I know that his car is not going to be in that race. But what that means is the door is going to be open for people to fill those places, right? So who's it going to be? Carter Patterson's had a lot of success across the state of Oregon. He finished third last year, so we'll give him an opportunity. And, who else is going to be in the field and what's that going to look like? It's got to be exciting for some of these guys who have been looking for an opportunity to end up on the podium.
No doubt, no doubt. And, I didn't see him among the finishers in the A main, but a guy like Gray Ferrando, right? Gray Ferrando, top 5, top 10 runner in the Shaw Race Cars Western region, as well as the whole entire country. When it comes to the point standings for the Friesen Performance IMCA Modifieds, I mean, that's a cat that could be there and do very well.
Yeah, definitely. And I know he's made numerous trips to the Southern Oregon Speedway and tends to fare pretty well there when he comes down. So excited to see, who's there and what that all looks like, as there is a lot of money on the line. I think total, Ben, with the modifieds, the sport modifieds, and the street stocks, we're going to have an absolutely packed pit area and over 50,000 in total payouts for the R. Charles Snyder.
Well, and 2 nights of racing, right? It's not just one night. Things kick off on Saturday, the 26th. That's how that cycles out, right?
Well, and you may not have seen this yet, Ben, and this is kind of a late ad. The test and tune is on Friday night, and what's going to be fun about this is we've decided to add some fun events that we're going to stream live on Facebook Friday night, so drivers can come out and practice. And then we've put together a bracket race, and we're going to line them up by a random hat draw and basically have duels, right? Like head up, man on man, or whoever's behind the wheel.
Sure.
And it's a bracket, much like March Madness, and it'll all be streamed live on Facebook, and it'll just be a fun thing. And I know there's going to be some money paid out there as well, but they're basically going to run head to head. The winner's going to advance and get down to a final winner, and that's just to have a little fun on the test and tune night. And then, yes, officially Saturday is the first day of actual racing that counts towards the weekend's big race.
Nice, I like it. Kind of like knockout qualifying with Formula One.
Yes, I'm not as familiar with Formula One, but I'll take your word for it, Ben.
Okay. As far as any special contingencies like long tow award or hard charger, things of that nature that's in the works or is already established for this race?
Now, I am trying to confirm our hard charger sponsor. We did have a sponsor last year. I asked him about this year. He's actually one of our drivers that sponsored it last year, and it didn't work out. I mean, it worked out well in the sense that he got a lot of exposure, but his night didn't go well as far as his car and the damage to his car. So it was an expensive weekend for him for many reasons, but I'm sure we'll probably have somebody back on board for the hard charger. What's really going to be cool about this year, and I'm kind of speaking out of turn because we haven't posted or really talked about this in public, is there will be some provisionals for Sunday's feature. And we're looking at, and we're still trying to iron out some of the kinks, but basically we're going to be pulling some drivers who have traveled and some drivers from the state of Oregon, but we're looking at potentially, and don't hold me to this, like I said, I'm speaking out of turn. There may be some state on state battles.
Okay.
If you're picking up what I'm putting down for some of those provisional slots, so that we maybe give some of those drivers who have pulled a long way a last chance opportunity with those provisionals to get into the feature. So yes, there's some fun twists to it. Some of them we're still kind of ironing out. But yes, there will be some of those things going on. And I don't know if you remember this or not, last year with the SportMod feature, it's 7,007 to win, 707 to start. And I don't remember exactly how much money Colby Fett took home to Iowa, but I want to say, because of different people adding to the purse throughout the race that night, that he took home over $9,000, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I was just watching it before we got on the phone here, and like you guys told him that, and then he got like super emotional in victory lane.
Yeah, and he decided that week to come out, so it was a very cool thing that he made the trek all the way out, and then he obviously took the money back home to Iowa. But I don't know how many other tracks have this happen. For whatever reason, we have kind of a unique situation, and there's one specific couple that likes to add money to some of these big races, and they'll just start texting in to the tower and just start adding money. And then the crowd starts adding money and businesses start adding money. It's not something that we pre-plan ahead of time. It's not something that we're tricking people with, anything like that. It's just something that kind of just happens organically. And it's really cool to see that because it's happened numerous times at big races that we've had at the Southern Oregon Speedway, whether it is the R. Charles Snyder or maybe the Rayburn or the Melvin, where people just decide they want to help out and make it bigger. And it's even happened on some random Saturday night. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's happened before. And it's always exciting to be able to tell those drivers when they get out of their car, hey, I know you were racing for $7,007, but you're actually going to take home another $1,000 or $2,000. And as you mentioned, it meant a lot to Colby for making the check out here, and especially with it being his first time out here. So yeah, it's just very cool to see stuff like that happen. So I really hope that kind of comes to fruition and those people kind of do that, and maybe we can kind of prod them a little bit to get it going.
Yeah, I looked it up. 28 hours at least, and that's without stopping one way from Algona, Iowa to White City, Oregon. So that's a trip. That's not just down the road. So super cool.
I'm pretty sure they had 3 guys, a pickup, and the trailer, and it was just the 3 of those dudes just going for it. And it could have been 4, but it was definitely a road trip. And what would have been really cool is to have a camera crew, or a fly on the wall just to see what that adventure looked like, because to decide the week of to tow all the way out to Oregon from Iowa. And he's a cool guy, right? Like, it's not like you had he's a hot shoe, but to come out here and be so appreciative of the facility and the people, he just kind of fit right in. Their whole crew did. And it was just a lot of fun to have them out here and just experience that. And it was very cool.
Well, talking about 2024, unfortunately, the weather has been a little too cool for our liking, a little too wet for our liking. Southern Oregon Speedway, going into the R. Charles Snyder Salute, just one race completed for both the Friesen Performance IMCA Modifieds and IMC Northern SportMods. But in those couple races, or in that one race, I should say, those couple divisions, some pretty decent racing. The SportMod count, as always, just incredible. And the Modifieds, car for car, really competitive.
Yeah, and I was actually pleasantly surprised by some of the new drivers that were out there who haven't, like, for example, Kenny Boardman Jr., he finished 4th in the Modified, and he's raced cage karts, but been out of racing for a while, and the dude was driving like a man possessed out there, and was driving a car that's been out there before, owned by Albert Gill. And I told him after the race, that guy specifically, Kenny Boardman Jr., he's had a bit of a roller coaster of a life and hasn't been shy about sharing those facts about some of his struggles. So to see that guy get out there and wheel that race car like he did, I honestly feel like he's a dark horse out there. And I don't know, as far as the equipment goes and everything, like, can he compete for a victory? I don't know. When you stack the field up and you bring more cars into town, but he was looking really good out there. And, just some of these guys that we haven't seen as much of, and what's that going to look like come this weekend?
Are you looking to find that adrenaline rush, but you can't because you're not at the racetrack? Well, check out the IMCA TV Replay subscription library to have access to thousands of hours of racing for just $24.99 a month. Relive all the moments of the Speedway Motors IMCA Super Nationals fueled by Casey's at Boone Speedway, the Harris Clash at Deer Creek Speedway in Spring Valley, Minnesota, the IMCA TV Winter Nationals at Cocopah Speedway in Somerton, Arizona, Florida's Clash on the Coast, and dozens of Speedway Motors IMCA weekly racing program racetracks from across the nation, as well as the IMCA TV Dirtcast podcast. Plus, 25% of that $24.99 monthly fee goes towards the Drivers Point Fund and is a great way to help out your local racers. In 2023, over $97,000 was paid out to IMCA drivers directly at over 50 racetracks across the country. Please note that live broadcasts are not part of the replay subscription. That's IMCA TV. IMCA TV, where America comes to watch racing. Well, speaking of this weekend, the reason for the weekend, as far as the naming of the race, R. Charles Snyder, iconic voice of not just Southern Oregon Speedway, but a huge figure in the radio world, in the Rogue Valley, and a local celebrity.
Definitely. He's someone that I grew up listening to on the radio, the morning zoo back in the day on the old Beat 93, Power 93, absolutely legendary station for many years here in Southern Oregon. And then he ended up moving on to more classic hits radio. But the guy was on the radio forever down here and just an absolute legend. I mean, one of, if not the best to ever do it. And also, doubled much like I do, being on the radio and announcing at the track and back in the day out at the Posse grounds and then moving to the Southern Oregon Speedway. It's a real surreal thing to be able to sit in that same tower and try and do it justice as someone who's very new to announcing racing specifically, to do it justice when there's been someone like him who is one of the best to ever do it, especially around here.
Yeah, he just had that iconic voice. I only met him a couple of times because I was kind of a pretty young announcer and would only be there for like Northern Sprint Tour Speed Week or if ASCS was in town. But most of my memories of going in the tower and interacting with the local announcer was with Bryce. And but R. Charles was there. When my buddy Fred Ranner Jr. was there, but I just remember he just had, like that classic, like you're listening to a baseball game on the radio kind of thing, just the cadence and the tone and spoke very well, very clear. Really, really cool guy.
Yeah. And he always had the extra tidbit of information. I think that's what I remember most about R. Charles Snyder, listening to him. You felt like he just had the insight on things that were interesting, right? And he spent a lot of time, I think, walking the pits and really finding out those little tidbits and really, and Cam, that announced out at the track for about a year and a half, I think, when they opened Southern Oregon Speedway back up as the Southern Oregon Motorsports team, did an amazing tribute last year for R. Charles Snyder. And one of the things he mentioned was, and that's one of the things he really remembered too, much like myself, that he would find out these interesting pieces of information and then he would make the drivers almost character-like. You felt like the drivers were bigger than life. He had a way of going about it where he would get that information and he would have the nicknames and he would have a little story to add to it. And it just really made those drivers feel so much bigger. And I think that's one of the things that really stood out to me.
Sure. Definitely for anybody interested in becoming an announcer or understanding how announcing works, is that's just a key thing, is have a nugget about every single person, whether they have the most money in the pits or the least amount of money or the most wins or no wins.
Yeah, and they all have a different story to tell, and that's one of my favorite parts too, is just, as I've only been in this for a couple of years as far as the announcing part goes, is being able to just stand around and listen and hear some of the stories, because so many people are connected in this world, and to find out the different connections and hear how people got into it and how they've been able to keep racing and, the people that have helped them out and what it means to them and the whys. And it's different for everyone, why they're out there. And obviously we want to all have fun and we enjoy racing. But when you see a story like the Kenny Boardman Juniors of the world, who hasn't led the easiest path in life, and you see what it means to them to be out there, smiling from ear to ear and something that really gives them something to look forward to, and that escape from the real life stresses. And I think that's what this is for a lot of us.
Well, and yeah, you definitely hit the nail on the head. The racing world, it's large, it's vast, but it's also very small and it's closely connected. You could go to the Speedway Motors IMCA Super Nationals fueled by Casey's and see Colby Fett race in his home state, and go up to him and say, hey, I'm from Oregon. I saw you win the R. Charles Salute to R. Charles Snyder at Southern Oregon Speedway, and an ultimate icebreaker. Oh, man, yeah, no, that was a crazy. And then all of a sudden, you have somebody standing next to him like Jake Sacco, who won the race, the Super Nationals last year. Oh, man, that's super cool. And then you can talk. It's contagious. Racing is a very contagious sport.
Yeah, and to me, the people are the best part. It's a big family, dysfunctional at times,
Sure.
as you know,
Yeah.
but aren't they all?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just super cool for me to be able to get to know some of these people better. Like I said, I think I jumped in 2021 at the end of the season, just kind of by dumb luck where they frankly didn't have anyone left else to call. And I was the guy and then ended up not leaving. So it's just been really cool for me to get to know some of these people better and see the whys and find out more about their lives and their families. And then it just goes from there, right? Like some of these people have become, business customers or friends or whatever. There's just so many different angles to this. And it's cool to see these people, especially, some of the younger drivers that are growing and you see them developing and you see when the light comes on and all of a sudden they go from running in the back half of the pack to all of a sudden competing for a podium or getting that podium finally, or some of the older drivers who, see some success and maybe they struggled for a while and then they figure out some of this new technology or whatever and you see it click. It's just fun. It's fun to be a part of. It's fun to see people grow. And yeah, it's a great sport to be involved in.
So one last question before I let you go. I know that that you're very busy, but I really appreciate your time. Is what I like that's super cool about this salute to R. Charles Snyder is the James Bond theme, because I'm a huge James Bond fan. From Russia with Love, the second movie in the series, is still my all-time favorite, my favorite Bond girl, my favorite story. What's the story with R. Charles Snyder and the James Bond connection? Do you happen to know that?
You're kind of putting me on the spot here, which is totally fine. But I think, and I should know this, but I'm pretty sure he was just a massive fan.
Okay.
From what I've heard, and there probably is more to that, obviously, but I know he was definitely just a big fan of James Bond, and so that's where it kind of all started from. And then, like anything, it just kind of takes off from there.
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, we thank you for your time, Jason, and I hope that it's a wonderful event. And hopefully one of these days you and I get to work alongside for it, because it's a really cool crown jewel, not just in the Northwest, not just on the West Coast, but in the entire country. And it honors a wonderful person.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to do that. I think you told me on the phone earlier that you had prior obligations already, but I just want to say before we bounce here that it's been a pleasure getting to know you, and you've got a mind like none other. I wish I had half of it. I'm not that wired that way, but you do an awesome job, Ben. It's a pleasure working with you anytime we get to work together, and I just try and soak as much up of it as I can as a sponge. So yeah, I'd love to do that sometime, and I'm excited to see you down here, hopefully in a couple of weeks for some of these other shows that we're going to try and team up on this year. You've been doing an awesome job with the podcast and everything else. So I just wanted to give you a quick shout out before I go.
Well, I appreciate that, and we'll talk soon.
All right, buddy. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Well, race fans, that does it for this interview. We hope you enjoyed it, and we hope that you continue to enjoy these upcoming interviews. We appreciate it if you would like and subscribe wherever you're listening, whether it's on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, wherever it's at. Give us a like and give us a subscription so that we can deliver more of these great interviews to you for your listening pleasure. In the meantime, wherever we're at, wherever you're listening, we hope you have a great rest of your day and a pleasant evening, and we will see you soon here at Highside Racing Promotions. Before we let everybody go, here's the upcoming schedule on IMCA TV of live pay-per-view events. Also in Iowa, Dubuque Fairgrounds Speedway, Nodak Speedway in Minot, North Dakota, and Clay County Fair Speedway in Spencer, Iowa. Clay County Fair Speedway going to be the place to be on Monday the 20th, Tuesday the 21st, and Wednesday the 22nd for the 250K Challenge. Also on Wednesday night, it'll be the kickoff for the All-Star Shootout at Southern Oklahoma Speedway in Ardmore. Thursday, May 23rd, will feature Kossuth County Speedway in Algona, Iowa. All-Star Shootout action at Grayson County Speedway in Bells, Texas. And Park Jefferson International Speedway in Jefferson, South Dakota. A full card of action on May 24th will feature Davenport Speedway in Iowa, Mandan, North Dakota's Dakota Speedway, Beatrice Speedway in Nebraska, All-Star Shootout action at Heart of Texas Speedway in Waco, Texas. Black Hills Speedway in Rapid City, South Dakota. Lots of action on May 25th, Saturday night, including Crystal Motor Speedway in Michigan. Tons of action from the state of Iowa with Boone Speedway, Maquoketa Speedway, and Independence Motor Speedway. Eagle Raceway in Nebraska on the card, as well as Worthington Speedway in Minnesota, Harlan, Iowa's Shelby County Speedway, Williston Basin Speedway in North Dakota, and Heart of Texas Speedway for another round of the All-Star Shootout in Waco, Texas. Sunday will see the return of action on May 26th at Crystal Motor Speedway in Michigan, Benton County Speedway in Benton, Iowa, also in Iowa, Dubuque Fairgrounds Speedway, Nodak Speedway in Minot, North Dakota, Stewart International Speedway in Iowa. And on Monday, May 27th, 2 races scheduled on the card for IMCA TV, Nodak Speedway in Minot and Stewart International Speedway in Iowa.